Well, here's something haunting about the Charlie Kirk memorial. This is something that I felt as I watched this personally, is we don't know if someone in that room knows something or betrayed him in some way as a representative of the deep state. We know that the FBI narrative does not make sense. That's why there's this unease at watching this. It is not... I don't think this bodes well for the Republican Party, even though there were those who sort of used it as the opportunity to validate the Republican Party. I feel like this is a hole that needs to be answered. I am glad that Republicans are the ones who are leading the charge to ask it. Here is one post. This is a long one, but it's worth looking into and reading. I only clipped the first part. This person said... he was sitting there. There's a video here of his seat and his angle, and he says, everyone here is mad because we don't feel like we trust the government. We're here because we very much feel moved by Charlie Kirk. What we don't feel like is that this is the government that will give us the answers. And there, he says the atmosphere was despondent. I think this could mean trouble for the Trump administration because it did not coalesce opposition to the left. President Trump did say that, but that I don't think was the temperature of the whole event. It sort of increased government suspicion. The only message that seemed to have universal support was the spiritual one. The government narrative, however, felt hollow because of these gaps. Now, FBI Director Kash Patel didn't really do much to help this when he posted this just before the event. What he's saying here, and you can read this for yourself, is a bunch of blah-blah-blah about how they're going to look at all angles. There's still stuff. We don't know. Probably he sees these holes too, you would hope. But if you think that he's going to come and be forthcoming with these holes, I've got a bridge to sell you, because this is what he said last week about Jeffrey Epstein, and I about fell out of my chair.
You've seen most of the files. Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these young women to besides himself?
Himself. There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals. And the information we have, again, is limited.
So the answer is no one?
For the information that we have.
In the files?
In the case file.
Okay. Now,
there are no words for my reaction to that. So why is Ghislaine Maxwell in prison? Why is Prince Andrew? What?
Don't ask questions.
So my confidence in the FBI is low. Go ahead, Philip, please.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I just think Kash Patel, with the holes in the Charlie Kirk assassination and then all of the holes in the Epstein files, it's like he's not interested in investigating where the holes come from or what they mean. He's just interested in plugging them and moving on.
Yeah.
Right.
There are holes there. Okay, let's move on. What do I need to say on TV next? Okay, so we're being given strange stories about the bullet itself. Let's start there. One question that serious thinkers are grappling with is the exit wound. If the weapon was indeed a Mauser Model 98 bolt action rifle, there would seem to have been an exit wound and quite likely others hit by the trajectory of this, but there wasn't. Why? So a Turning Point spokesperson says the bullet did not go through because Charlie's body miraculously stopped that. So here is that post. We have been given a lot of rumblings about Charlie Kirk being immortalized as a saint. So are they going to now sell us that there's some kind of superhuman? He says right there in the center, it didn't go through. Charlie's body stopped it. His bone density was so healthy. And we have been told that he was a very healthy man. He didn't drink. He didn't like to eat junk food. He liked to run a lot. Okay, you can make yourself a cyborg that can stop bullets, but you can stop them, but that doesn't stop that from killing you. Some of the community notes on that post are enlightening. Like, that's literally not possible. There are many credible ballistic experts that say that this shot could not have done that this shot could not have come from the front. I'm going to put a pin on that because neither of us are experts here. We should not be saying one thing or the other. We can bring experts that will bring contextualization of this, but I don't feel ready to argue that. Clayton feels a little bit more strongly about this. His bones stopped it bit. Do you want to say anything about that, or should we wait?
I mean, look, I haven't seen a medical examiner's report.
An autopsy, right.
I'm just going off of what I'm hearing from sources who spoke to the surgeon, who worked on his body, and where the trajectory of the bullet hit him in the chest, hit a bone, fractured his vertebrae, broke into pieces of fragments, and exited through his neck. That's what we were reporting kind of right early on with FBI ballistics experts, right at the very beginning, that he was shot in the front, hit a bone, traveled up his spine, destroyed his spine, destroyed like 4 or 5 vertebrae, exited out of his neck. Unless I see some evidence otherwise, again, we don't have a medical examiner's report, so I'm not going to throw my hat into the I know exactly what happened crowd.
Right. I feel very uncomfortable with this. He was capable of superhuman bone density. I feel very uncomfortable with that. So I'm going to say I put that on a scale of 1 to 10, believable scale. Maybe you could put a number in the chat. I'm going with a 1 on that. Where would you put it?
The bone density?
Yeah,
thing?
that the bone stopped it.
I don't think it stopped it. I think we clearly...
That's literally what he said.
Okay. But I think then Alex Jones followed up with him and had a conversation afterwards where he clarified that it broke into pieces and fragments. So it didn't stop it. Like the bullet just was like, whoa, man, Charlie Kirk's the man of steel, just stopped. I think there are reports from the surgeon that there were bone fragments. There were fragments found at the scene, and there were fragments found out through all of his neck and his chest.
And that the bullet is still in there. Okay, all right. Then an autopsy would show us that the bullet is still there. Can you put the live chat on instead of? Because I want to see what numbers are we coming with in the unbelievability.
Well, Mike Hawk says here, Man of Steel. They say his neck stopped a 30-06 round. Yeah.
Okay. No, I want to see the numbers. Can you?
What numbers?
I asked on a 1 to 10 scale. Where
0.
are we putting these? You guys are putting these at negatives.
Some people
this is how
0.
I feel. And Clayton's in the. I would say, in our conversation, Clayton's in the 0 to 5, and I am about a 0.25.
Well, I'm not buying the story that it stopped a bullet. My point is that no, his body inside was ripped apart by a bullet. So I don't exactly know. His body didn't stop the bullet. And it just stays there like a pinball, like boing, 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 boing. You're dead now. I don't think that's how that
does happen. I mean, that's not an uncommon occurrence for a bullet to strike a bone and then ricochet out. So the entry and exit wound for a bullet is not always a straight line. It probably rarely is.
Okay.
Right. So
as again, I come back to I'm not an expert in this. Kyle Seraphin, former FBI whistleblower, FBI ballistics expert, said on our show that from everything he's heard and seen, it went right in his chest. Struck bone, tore right up, and spins around because it's still rotating, so it's going in a weird. Then it's all pattern. Okay. Struck his spine, destroyed his spine, went up and out his neck. And until I see evidence otherwise, that's what I'm.
All right. I really don't. I don't want to get to because we don't know here on this show. So let's go to the things that do not make sense. Now, this is something that Candace Owens has been putting together on her own timeline, and I can't get it out of my head. Is that the authorities say, according to the indictment and the authorities' statements, that the shooter turned himself in 33 hours later. They keep signaling to us it was 33 hours between the time he took the shot and that he walked in to turn himself in. And then they raided the house of his of him and his lover roommate. And then they released the lover free and clear. And then the governor went on TV to say they got him. So I just wrote this out because it seems so unbelievable. So the assassination happens 12:23 p.m. on Wednesday, September 10th. Then you add those 33 hours. And then he walks in and turns himself in 33 hours later is the next day at 9:30 at night. Alleged shooter turns himself in. Now he goes, they talk to him for a bit. And then a few hours later, they're like, well, I guess we're going to have to raid your house and take in your roommate. That doesn't happen. They say a few hours. So it can't be an hour later. It has to be at least 2 hours after he turns himself in. The raid cannot happen at his house until at least 11:30 at night. 11:30 on Thursday. So then 8 hours later, we have Utah Governor Cox going on TV and say, we got him, all good, we have everything, we got his computer, we raided the house, and the roommate was released. So this raid happens in the middle of the night. They take all his computers. Now, they told us they're very active on Discord, on Reddit, on all kinds of social media. They were able to look through everything, take all the forensics, everything, and release the roommate in 8 hours. At the very least, the most generous is 8 hours. That seems wrong to me. The BBC ran this article interviewing people who lived in and around the house that was raided. And there was a woman who said, yeah, it was kind of weird. I was out for an evening walk, and I heard the feds break in and say, freeze, come out now. An evening walk at 11 p.m.? At the earliest, this could have been 11:30 because they said a few hours. 9:30, he turns himself in. A few hours later, they start the raid close to midnight, and there's a woman on a walk who heard it. Okay, that's kind of unbelievable, right? And then and again, look at this timestamp on the press conference of Governor Cox, 8 a.m. the next morning. So you're telling me that between 11:30 at night and 8 a.m., you've been through everything, you did all the questioning, you looked through all the forensics, and we got him, it's good. Just this guy, not that guy. We're feeling good about this. How do you feel about that? That's the thing I can't get over is no, you can't be done if he doesn't come in till 9:30.
No.
You cannot be done.
No, but this is what I did a video on last week. It's like you're moving so quickly to wrap up this investigation that you're like, oh, we got our guy, lone gunman, good, we're all finished here, nothing to see here, move along. Like we completed everything. And then, of course, you get the blowback from the FBI after that news started coming out. Like, we're done here, lone gunman. And then Kash Patel releases that big statement that says, no, we're going to continue to pull every thread. We're going to look down every rabbit hole and continue to unravel this thing as much as we can.
Right.
And forensics is not a fast thing. You know, like
you're echoing badly, David.
Yeah. Forensics takes a long time. Like, it doesn't matter what you're doing forensics on. I mean, a laptop, because like they also got to look at the connection. Like you said, Discord, there's other connections involved, and they didn't go down any kind of connection route to be like, okay, we need to question this person, this person, this person. At the very least, question them, which would take hours to find them, talk to them.
Right.
And how many of them like lawyered up? And like, I mean, again, that could take a long time. You're going to subpoena these individuals to get in from it because if like, like Kyle Seraphin always says, he's like, you should never talk to the FBI. So like, if like the FBI and investigators come to your house, be like, sorry, call my lawyer. And like, so how long will that take? You're going to go through a subpoena process and have a discussion. Could take weeks, months, could take years to get to the bottom of that. But no, you did it overnight.
Right. And don't you, this is part I haven't looked into, so please enlighten me if you know something about this, but don't they need permission to go and raid somebody's house if he walks in at 9:30 and then it's like, oh, I guess we're going to have to go to your house. Let's get that together. You're going to have to get that from a judge. That takes a while, right? So, and then they got that, they have everything and they're satisfied. They've done it overnight. You would think that the interview lasts at least that long and the governor's ready, TV camera ready, because they had to be ready to say something to the press at least an hour earlier, get the press in a room, say we're going to say something. That takes at least an hour. So you're telling me that it started at midnight and they were done by 7 a.m., ready to give this fully baked story? I cannot buy that. Not to mention the fact, and I have not looked from... Yeah, please.
Oh, because Tyler Robinson, they were even saying it was like at the time, he's not talking, which means it's not like he went in and confessed. He was turned in. But even if somebody comes in and confesses, they still need to verify it because they've already had two suspects they picked up that were the wrong person. So at that point, even with a confession, they still have to verify it. And if he's not talking, how could they verify anything that quickly?
Right.
Exactly.
He's
not cooperating. He's not talking. How do you verify that? That means you must have overwhelming evidence through text messages. You must have an overwhelming abundance of forensic evidence, DNA evidence, everything. We don't need this guy to talk because we've got so much evidence that we don't need him to open his mouth and sing like a bird.
Right, and you would think, given, like Philip said, they had the wrong guy twice. They might be, let's be a little bit more careful with this one. And they're completely convinced that the roommate had nothing to do with it, right? And then they give us this text exchange, which some people online, I find this funny because we did go over some of the ludicrous nature of this text exchange, like, my love, I will be getting my vehicle and change my outfit. That instead of that they asked AI to write a believable text exchange of people in their 20s, and that AI might have mistakenly thought that it was people in the 1920s, because that is more the lexicon of people who might say squad car, like really got that copper, like the Dick Tracy era. Again, that in and of itself is ridiculous enough. They should apologize to us for that, because that doesn't make sense. And again, and another thing is, if this is your lover that you're talking about, you don't need to say in a text, my dad has been so MAGA lately. This is something you have been talking about at home for a long time. Clayton and I talk about our parents' politics all the time. It's not something I would ever need to enlighten him about in a text, right? That also, these are not okay. So yeah, let me know what you think of these things. We're not going to let them go.